I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
And Lisa Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? Amazing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host, Dr. Law. With me, as always, DJ Mark.
What's up?
Also joining us this week, Lavender Gooms.
I'm really torn in what air fryer to get, guys.
Oh, don't worry. We could do an entire podcast with air fryers. That's how much I know. Finally, joining us this week. This man has an air fryer, I think. Or at least he did. Kid Presentable.
I had a roommate who had an air fryer, and it's the thing I miss most about her moving out.
Oh, Stefan, you gotta get the pennies together.
They're difficult to clean, man.
Oh, they
you
are.
You fry some chicken, you will get some gunk in there that is really hard to clean.
Exactly. If you're trying to just cook something that's already cooked, fried, some mozzarella sticks, easy cleanup. You try to actually cook, real problem.
I have to assume that it's very similar to other things you're cooking. You just gotta clean it before it gets dried up. No,
here's the issue, my friend. You got a nonstick coating, which isn't that good, quite frankly, and you got some shit just caked onto it, and you just gotta get some hot water in there, let it soak, and then hope you don't scrape off the nonstick coating.
I mean, and since you opened the door, Mike, my biggest fuck up with the air fryer was one time I tried to make lumpia, and I cooked them so much that those pirouette cookies? That's how dry it was. It was just a cracker. Whatever meat was in there got completely dehydrated.
Let's clarify for the audience the food. You weren't trying to cook your dog.
That's fair. On this podcast, we referred to Lumpia the dog many times. So in this specific area, yes, Lumpia the food.
There was no qualifier, so I'm not talking about the lady. She's fine. You'll probably hear her humping away at some point during this podcast. A little rappy tapping in the background.
I'm sure that dog would be very delicious with the right seasoning.
Thank you, Mike. Way to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about MMA today. It's what we do. But first off, I've given the man the title, Anderson the Avenger, because I'm real original, because Stefan was talking about the Avengers campus yesterday, so I had it on my mind. Anderson Silva, man. These MMA fighters versus boxing fights haven't gone so well for us. But Anderson went out there in Mexico, went against the son of a Mexican legend, a former world champion boxer, a man who no less than 3 years ago was fighting Canelo Alvarez. But let me tell you, Canelo Alvarez was getting a big laugh at this fight. I felt like he was chuckling quite a bit. Anderson Silva went out there and didn't just beat, I forgot his name already.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
I was about to say Manuel Marquez.
He's only the son of the most famous boxer ever. Boxer ever.
I was about to say Manuel Marquez. I'm like, no, that's the guy who did steroids to beat Pacquiao. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Anderson took the clock back to whatever year it was he beat up Stephan Bonner. That's where the time machine went back to. Hopped in that DeLorean. He was clowning him, hands down, doing the thing where he waves his arm around. Hit him with a shovel hook at one point. Woo! It was beautiful to see. I don't got a lot of analysis here, Mark. I was just happy for us to get one. We got one, finally.
Yeah, it was just, when we talk about the recent stint of MMA fighters, going into the foray of boxing, they've all been mismatches, more or less. You look at Conor and Floyd, huge mismatch. We can kid ourselves as much as we want. We saw the proof in the pudding. And then Logan Paul and Ben Askren was just a huge mismatch, and we knew that going in. This was a good fight because it was a good matchup. Anderson Silva at 46 still has a lot left in the tank. I haven't really seen Chavez Jr. fight. I just knew that his father was very successful, and my understanding was he's always been kind of mediocre. Like, he never raised to the level that his father got to by any stretch of the imagination. And in this fight, it was just a fun fight overall. Take what we know of Anderson Silva out of the equation. It was just a competitive match, and I think we can talk about he definitely won that fight. But Chavez was in there. He landed some good shots. I think what was most surprising is just how well Anderson took the shots. I think there's a lot of the clips have been the third round where he's baiting him in and telling him to come in the corner. And Chavez hits him right in the fucking face. Like, he jabs him right in the face. And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, but the thing was, it never phased. There was never a point in this match where it looked like Anderson was seriously hurt. He didn't look like he got tired, which was really surprising. You know, he went, 8 pretty hard rounds. And he did really well in the infighting, too. Something that a lot of his best weapons in mixed martial arts was in the clinch, a Muay Thai clinch. His knees were deadly. That's where he got a lot of his victories early on. So I think a lot of people thought, when it got in close, he was going to be a little hamstrung, but like, he stood right in the pocket and he threw a lot of uppercuts. I think what I would kind of point to improvements you could make is going to the body a lot more. There's a lot of head hunting there.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know if we're going to talk about Inouye's fight here or I'm going to talk about it in stuff we like, but you look at that guy's fights and there's a reason why he's the rising star. Stay tuned
for stuff we like, because Inouye's body shot, Marcus, that hurt me when he ended that fight. I was watching. I'm like, I just slumped over in my own chair. But we'll hold on to that thought for now.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But that's something in his last fight, which was his first fight in the U.S. Like, he wasn't doing that at all. And I almost think he thought Americans want me to dome this dude because that's all they know. And it was just weird, seeing him not go to the liver in that fight. But he did in this fight, and he looked awesome. And we'll get into that later.
Mike, you wanted to chime in here.
Mm-hmm. I am not hearing enough dick riding for Anderson in this podcast yet, all right? We need to hype our boy up. Let's forget about the fact that Julio Cesar Chavez is a man
Junior.
whose record... Yes, Junior, yes. Let us forget the fact that he has a record that is built on a bunch of bums, all right? Forget that part. Here's the part we really got to hold on to, all right? Anderson Silva, for the most part, is like our champion representative in the Mortal Kombat tournament, all right? And my man showed the fuck out. Let's talk the stats right now. Let's talk the W right now. He beat a man who was the former WBC middleweight title. Do I know if that's a good title or not? Who the fuck knows?
That's true.
But all I know is that he beat a former boxing champion and a legitimate boxing promotion.
But how many YouTube subscribers does that guy have? He ain't real.
He's real. I saw him.
Stefan,
he's there.
For years, we heard about Anderson wants to box Roy Jones, and the UFC's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Let's have him box Roy Jones, I guess, right? I mean, he wants it. I mean, I don't know what else to do with this old man.
I saw Roy Jones fight Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
He can fight Anderson Silva. Yeah. Roy Jones is especially after that Tyson's fight, I'm like, it's appropriate now. Even without this Chavez fight, I could have been fine with Anderson doing that. Because, when you're talking about the comparison of who has been boxing, and it's why, you could even, I think Vitor Belfort has a boxing match come up. Like, I give him a little more respect because he was a very credible striker in MMA, right? Yeah. Anderson was a credible striker. Yeah, the kicks were there, but he had good hands too. Just look at his 20-hit combo on Chris Leben, right? He was a very complete martial artist. So, and another thing that would give you confidence, he is older, but he wears damage pretty well, right? Even in the fights that he took a beating in, he never got that cut up. He never got that bruised up. He has been put out, with the Weidman hook, but those were few and far between. It's very rare that he ever ate such a clean shot that just completely took his lights out. So, as long as he was fighting appropriate competition, I never had a problem with Anderson boxing. Okay. There's a lot of other guys who want to dip their toes in boxing where you have no business being here. I mean, in the bare knuckle boxing world, Rachel Ostovich, why is she boxing? She's never had striking as part of her acumen at any stage of her fighting career, So Anderson doing it, to quote our favorite who I vehemently picked against, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. Anderson, fighting a guy like Chavez, right? Now you put him against a Paul brother. I'm gonna be like, that's a mistake, Anderson. What are you doing?
I saw the one Paul brother, Jake, said that he'd love if Anderson and Roy were the undercard of his fight with Woodley, which that's a fast turnaround in all seriousness, I think. Isn't that happening next month?
Yeah.
It's like in 6 weeks.
That's not going to happen.
No,
yeah.
and also, come on now. It's Anderson versus Roy Jones. That's the main event, baby. Vitor's fighting Oscar De La Hoya, is what it is, right? How much bigger is Oscar De La Hoya? How much bigger is Vitor than Oscar De La Hoya? I know Oscar De La Hoya is old and drunk, but like Oscar fought at like.
I gotta assume their weight is probably about the same now, but I also gotta assume Oscar's not really carrying good weight right now.
Didn't Oscar catch a Pacquiao beatdown at one point at the end? Didn't that happen,
Yes,
Steph?
he did.
Yeah, he did. Okay.
Oscar was absolute. That was one of Pacquiao's big highlights, was how bad he murked.
So, like, I mean, I'm saying, like, Oscar, I think Oscar probably fought at, like, 150 something, probably, most of the time. Vitor, okay, we know, let's be honest, we know which version of Vitor's showing up. That version of Vitor is not weighing less than 185 pounds, okay? By the way,
Oscar's highest weight division he fought at was that middleweight, which in boxing is 154 to 160.
Yeah, okay.
Jeez.
He's going to be giving up some weight here. And, you know, if they fought, by the way, Anderson fought in Mexico. He didn't get tired, huh? Against, you know.
I mean, I'm picking Vitor.
Yeah, the
MMA swing in boxing is about to happen.
By the way,
was it in Mexico City?
I don't think it was Mexico City. Was it? Because I've been pressed then.
I don't believe it was.
The main event was a 60-year-old man boxing, which, by the way, the main event, I'm marking your staff. Did you guys catch this at all?
It was entertaining.
Okay, they were wearing headgear. And then, like, it got a little,
okay.
They started chirping. And then, in some straight WWE shit, dude pulled off the headgear and said, no headgear. And the other guy pulled off the headgear. And then Canelo, who was ringside, got into the ring to calm the men down. And then they put the headgear back on, because that's what the families wanted. That's
kind of sad.
It was some
Grandpa, don't do this to us, Grandpa.
It really did have that, like, oh man, your two drunk uncles are fighting in the corner, like, vibes. It was sad to watch.
You know what? The old man, he didn't look bad. All right. Well, that's enough talk about the tribute to champions, whatever the hell they called that thing. But go watch Anderson fight. Made me happy.
It was good. It was a fun fight.
UFC had a card, Zombie versus Dan Ige. I guess Marcus, pick this, moving along a little bit quicker here in this thing. Zombie learned some takedowns. First time in 9 years, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a smart veteran move on his part. I think Dan had a lot. I mean, in the stand-up, they were both getting shots off, but it was pretty obvious once he was able to take it to the ground. He was superior there. He was able to control Ige. He was able to steal rounds away from him. For me, it really just seemed like a veteran performance on his part. He had a younger guy who was a little bit quicker on the hands. And even though, Zombie got some good shots in the second round, but he knew that if he gets a takedown, he's going to be able to control. He got his back multiple times. He threatened with submissions, didn't get super close on any of them, but just really smart ways to win rounds. And I think Ige came in strong in the fourth. I think it was either the third or the fourth. He had a pretty decent round. But overall, yeah, just a good performance by Zombie. Way to get back on the winning ways. And against a tough guy. Dan Ige, he presented himself pretty well. He just couldn't figure out the puzzle in this one.
Steph, not that Zombie would say has bad fight IQ, but every now and then, man, you just do what you got to do, huh? At this stage in his career. Just got to get a W.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting watching this fight just because, like, as such a longtime fan of him, I don't know how confident I feel going forward, even though it was a pretty clear decision. Like, he kind of, not that he ever super evolved, but, I don't know if you guys caught that when you were watching it, he kind of looked like an older version of himself, where it was where the Zombie moniker kind of name came from. Like, there was a point where when he was really surging, where he just looked technically sharper. He just looked a little bit more efficient in his movements. There was something more plotting about his pace in this fight. He won, so like I don't want to be hard on him, but basically I'm worried that like he might be regressing from being top flight competition, right? Like he's still, he's still like a high level like gatekeeper in the sense of, are you ready for a title fight gatekeeper? But I'm not so confident in really picking against him against any like maybe the other top five guys in the division at this point.
This weight class is nuts. Like, I mean, honestly, all the weight classes about 135 to 170 is just a goddamn shark tank, every one of those divisions. And 125 is rapidly catching up in that part too.
I mean, I think coming out of it, like, even though I just said I'm not confident against him top 5 guys, the fight coming out of this of what to do with him next, which I really agree with, is like, we should just make him versus Max Holloway in case we don't get it otherwise, you know? Just in case someone loses and someone becomes champion and it's not right to make that fight. Just because, like, that fight needs to happen. I need to know what that outcome is.
What did we lose? Max was going to fight somebody and it got pulled, right?
That's what I was going to ask. I can't remember who
was it Rodriguez?
Yeah, it was there. You know, I'm good with that one too, actually. That's not bad. Somebody called Yair a pussy.
If Ortega beats Volkanovski in their upcoming title fight, Zombie doesn't really have a good case to fight Ortega right now.
Yeah. Okay. Co-main event. I picked the polar bear. I didn't watch. Did he look like a polar bear? Anybody who saw this?
I mean, he looked pretty good, but it was Olenek. It was because when I saw it after the fact, and they were kind of saying like, oh yeah, was it Spuvik? What's the guy's name?
Polar bear.
Yeah, like he mauled Alex, and I was like, okay, he got a beat down, and it really wasn't that one-sided. Olenek took the first round, and mostly it was all grappling, right? He was able to get him down in the first round, and got in some good positions. The second round, he pulled guard. It didn't go super hot for him until the very end of like the last 30 seconds. He reversed, got mount, went for a scarf choke, and almost got him. Like, it was in fucking tight. Like, that thing, another 10 seconds, he could have won that fight. The third round, he really gassed out, and that's where Spuvik was able to turn on the heat. He got a bad cut, so there was a lot of blood everywhere, but it wasn't like I was expecting a fucking mauling. Like, he just beat the shit out of
Marcus,
this guy.
His name is the Polar Bear. They probably wrote that art. They probably had that locked in before.
That's true. They probably had, well, we're going to throw mauling into this one way or the other. It was a good performance. I don't want to take anything away from him. Just going into it, I was like, okay, I expected a full beatdown. And like, no, Alex acquitted himself fairly well. He's getting old, and that gas tank in the third just can't hold it. But yeah, it was a decent fight. It was a good, coming out party for Spuvik, but I'll keep an eye on him. But it wasn't anything like, oh yeah, this guy is title contention. Let's get him ready. He still needs some more rounds in there before I get on that train.
There's times where you watch some of these heavyweight fights and you feel like they're almost fighting in a different weight class than like the ones that Stipe and Ngannou and shit are fighting in, in terms of the gap sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit of that there.
All right. PFL time, people. That's what I'm here for. This is like, we're like this close to this being a PFL podcast. I'm working hard on it. Rory McDonald, Gleison Tebow happened. It was a weird situation where, based on the playoff formatting, the only way Gleison Tebow was going to make the playoffs was if he got a finish by the end of the second round, and he didn't. So then that third round's happening, and you're like, well, this is just for fun. We're all fighting for the win bonus here. And Rory pretty clearly won this fight 2-1, except according to the people who were judging it. Bad decision there. But because Rory lost, he gets an easier opponent, is what it weirdly works out to. The way the structure works. It's because the way it worked out, the structure of the point system, someone who's, he's avoiding a bit of a tougher opponent, according to most people. Also on this card, Mark's favorite middleweight, or favorite light heavyweight now, Chris Camozzi, got a big W.
Good for him.
Nice.
Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Vinnie Marleise ended in a no contest due to groin shot.
Right, I read that.
Yeah. This week at PFL, we got the return of Kayla Harrison. So Kayla Harrison is a minus 2,000 favorite. She is going to, here's the word, maul Cindy Dandois, which name sounds familiar, honestly.
Didn't Kayla Harrison just fight like a month ago?
You might be thinking of, was it Shields? Who's the woman that was the boxer?
No, I know Clarissa
fought?
Shields.
She
fought like a month.
No, she fought pretty
recently.
Week ago. She fought pretty recently. This is the PFL tournament. You fight a little bit. PFL season. You fight a little more recently.
Gotcha.
More often. Cindy Dandois had one UFC fight, losing to Alexis Davis. Actually, she's gonna get destroyed, and Kayla's gonna do her thing. We got Anthony Pettis on this card. We got Lance Palmer. people might not be familiar with him, he was really a guy you kind of expected to eventually get to the UFC. He was the World Series of Fighting champion for a while there, Team Alpha Male guy. But he always said that if the UFC will pay me as much as the World Series of Fighting, now the PFL, he'll go. But it sounds like he's happy making money in the PFL. So good for that dude. Anyway, PFL. It's on Thursdays.
Can I ask you a serious question, Bob?
Yeah.
I think I already know the answer, but as an outsider view, when you talked about what happened in the Rory McDonald fight and the T-Bell fight, doesn't that? And I'm guessing in the context of it trying to be more of a sport, it doesn't really matter. But in the context of it being a combat sport, having someone lose and then having him still potentially be the champion seems weird in MMA, right? Because you lose in MMA and it's you're down, your ranking goes down. You have to work your way back up. To have a structure where it's he might lose 2 fights, but because he didn't lose so drastically, he's still the champion. Seems a little weird to me, but
Mike.
However, dear Mark, this isn't, normal fighting. As the thing says, it is the professional fighting league. And as we know with any league, you can lose during the regular season, but in the tournament, that's when it matters.
Well, here's the thing. Mark makes a good point. And as do you, Mike. I think that what I mentioned before, what I like about PFL is that they're really trying to be totally different from the UFC, which I appreciate. And because, just being a lesser UFC is not a good business model to me. It's not going to draw people. I would just watch UFC. Why would I watch something worse? It reminds me most of soccer, where there's when you go to the World Cup and there's the group and you're all right, we got these 4 teams, they're going to play each other. And among this group, the ones who get the most, you assign a value to a win, you assign a value to a draw in soccer. And then whoever has the most points at the end of this thing, the top 2 will advance. It's really the same thing in the PFL where you're okay, we have these welterweights, they're all going to fight each other. We have the top, 4 advance. And then at that point, it becomes a tournament. It is different, though, very much from most combat sports, Mark. So it kind of takes some getting used to. And the way it was worked out this time was weird.
I just wonder where the appeal is for your average person.
It kind of really tries to get you to watch every week. I think that's really most of it. It's they want you to watch every week. They're okay, on Thursday, you watch PFL. It's a couple hours. You don't have to dedicate an entire fucking day to it. It's, low stakes MMA watching. But it's just a TV show you watch every week is what it becomes. It's almost like a storyline you're watching, a story you're watching unfold. But they have a lot of stuff going. I mean, they have a lot of stats on the screen at once. I appreciate that. It's interesting. They have a good commentary team in there with Kenny Florian. I'm a fan. Anyway, news. Mike, what's the news this week? There's really one story.
Yeah, actually, it is a pretty big story. We actually alluded to it earlier. I did make a decision on an air fryer. Wait a second. That might not be what you're talking about. I think what you're talking about is... Oh, do you want to know about that? I can tell you.
I was joking.
No, because if you do, I got to argue with you about which one you pick. So we've got to move on.
Okay. So the news that you're referring to is that the most prominent MMA reporter this side of anywhere, Ariel Helwani, has a new home after leaving ESPN last week.
Yeah, Ariel's got 5 new homes. He's returning to the MMA Hour, which, if you are a newer MMA fan, which is weird saying because that show was around so long, and you feel Ariel was only at ESPN for a hot minute, but it was 3 years. MMA Hour was Ariel's show on MMA fighting, and he's returning there, and MMA Hour, despite its name, is a 3 to 4 hour interview show. Ariel interviews a lot of the fighters that are fighting this week, and any big newsmakers and such. He's also, by the way, the return of Sean Al-Shadi to MMA fighting as well. One of my favorite writers for MMA. Probably my favorite writer after Ben Folks. So MMA fighting, after years of being kind of irrelevant, making a bit of a comeback with these moves. So it's nice. Next.
What happened to Luke Thomas? Wasn't he doing the MMA Hour?
He's on Showtime?
Luke left MMA. Luke and Ariel don't like each other. There's a whole beef there. Anyway, but he went to Showtime. And Luke is my go-to for post-fight, normally. He's really good at breaking it down. technically. Ariel probably have interviews on his side, I imagine. Next, he's going to be on BT Sport, which is the home of the UFC in the United Kingdom and Ireland, which people seem pretty excited about. People who you are used to, who are looking over there, kind of they feel like they're not getting the best MMA coverage, so they're excited that Ariel is going to be over there. Stefan called this one. He's going to have an exclusive podcast on the Ringer banner. It's under Green Room, I believe is the name of the sub-platform of the Ringer, where Ariel's going to do pre-shows and post-shows live on the Ringer there, so it should be exciting.
Yeah, that one's a big one. Like I said, I'm a very avid listener of the Ringer, and it's amazing. It's amazing what they can cover. Like, they have Chef Dave Chang, so they talk about what's going on in recipes. They have, like, Emmy Award-winning people to talk about politics and, like, social issues. They got all the nerd stuff down pat, but of all the things they cover, sports included, they just don't have anything for MMA. I cited when Dana White was on the Bill Simmons podcast like a month ago, like that was the most fluffiest, like generic, vague bullshit. But I do give props to Bill because when he brought up Ngannou versus John Jones, and Dana's like, well, they want a lot of money. John Jones wants $20 million, and Bill Simmons was like, yeah, so give it to him. Like, I don't know what the problem is. He wants $20 million. Give him the $20 million. That was the one saving grace of that interview.
Well, also, I'm not clear which of the Ringer podcasts are exclusive to Spotify and which ones aren't. Like, cause I have a regular podcast app, and I was listening to the NBA show today that the Ringer puts on, and it was there. So I don't know.
Just to make sure, the Ringer is Bill Simmons' thing, right?
Yeah, it is. All right. He's launching a Substack newsletter, which is just it's going to be his own thing. I'm not super familiar with that. I guess there's some paywall, or there can be, but he said that if he gets behind a paywall, his plan is just to donate all the money to some charity that his, some like cancer, it was a brain cancer surgery, charity or something. And then finally, he's going to do a YouTube channel. Got to get those sweet, sweet YouTube dollars. So one day he can get into boxing and make some real money. Ariel's YouTube channel is going to be just for non-MMA, interviews and such, which I think it's good for him to branch out and show that he can do non-MMA interviews over there. So, yeah, I was listening to Ben Folks talk about this, and Steph, he said it's probably good for Ariel to maybe get a little farther away from the sun. Don't be at ESPN. And they're friends, and I get the impression Ben knows stuff is just like ESPN probably doesn't want to piss off the UFC right now by having Ariel around. That's my assumption.
Yeah, I mean, I'm whatever the politics are behind the scenes, I'm happy to see the man get work, right? When we would do our of the year awards, it was just called the Ariel Helwani Reporter of the Year award. I've never understood his severe detractors. Everyone is worthy of criticisms and ways they can improve, but like the people who outright dislike Ariel, I have never remotely understood it. The one thing I did like was when he was on ESPN, though. I like when they randomly from time to time would go to Ariel Helwani for like, what do you think about what the Knicks are doing, huh? The Knicks are being real stupid, Ariel. What do you think how do you feel about that? And Ariel would just have so much passion when he talked about his hurt as a Knicks fan. I will miss those random segments. Or like, oh, we're just talking to Ariel all of a sudden, even though he's not at the table. That's cool with me.
I hope his first guest on the MMA Hour is DC. Because DC and Helwani, I'm not sure if you guys caught it at all, was a really good show. It honestly was. They have really good chemistry. So, nice to see him doing stuff. It seems like he's not, like, exclusive anywhere. He's just getting paid to do these jobs different places. Not that he's going to be writing articles and stuff on MMA fighting. I think he just does the MMA Hour. So, it's really nice to see him, flex his muscle a bit and do a bunch of jobs, I guess. Anyway, that's really it. Let's make our pick for this one fight. Ciryl Gane. I finally said it right. I stopped with the Gane.
I think so.
I'm going Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane taking on Alexander Volkov. This one, we got some stuff happening here. We have number 3 versus number 5 here in the heavyweight division. Betting odds for this one, I believe, are leaning towards Gane, if I'm not mistaken. Steph?
Yeah, it's decently close. Gane at minus 175 to Alexander Volkov's plus 145.
Volkov is coming off of just beating Alistair Overeem out of the UFC. Just beating his ass all the way back to glory. Cyril Gane, last fight, went 5 rounds with the Biggie Boy. Had one of those performances where he said, I wanted everybody to see I could go 5 rounds. Marcus, who's your pick?
Yeah, I think it's going to be competitive, and it is a close call, and I think the betting line is somewhat accurate. I am going with Alexander. I'm just rooting more for the veteran to figure out some way to potentially get this to the ground. I think that's where he's going to be able to shine. I don't think we've ever seen Gane on the ground, really. So I'm going with the guy who has as many losses as this guy has wins, which is all his fights. But yeah, that's it.
His first UFC win was by arm triangle. His second was by heel hook.
Oh, that's right. He got weird submissions.
Yeah.
I'm still betting him getting grounded.
By the way, it's kind of weird when one guy is the veteran because Gane has got only 8 fights and Volkov's got about 40. Same age. Early 30s. One's 31, one's 32. So, Mike, who's your pick?
Yep, I'm going to be joining Mark on this one. I'm going to be going with Volkov.
Stefan?
So I don't feel great about this pick, but let's make it a little interesting. I mean, go with the favorite of Gane.
Yeah.
It's not any strong, compelling about how the fight is going to go. This is why I'm doing it, guys. When the weigh-ins happen, when the countdown happens, you'll see 2 things. You will see a very in-shape man, and then you will see a slab of Russian potato that is Alexander Volkov, where he's very lumpy and solid. And then you'll see him next to the chiseled physique of a man, and you'll be like, why do I think this guy's going to win? Why did I talk myself into this solid hunk of potato over here?
Anyway, Volkov
may win, but going on Bobby's...
Yeah, wait, is Volkov not a fat one, is he?
Why are you fat-shaming Volkov? He's a pretty good shape.
He's not fat. I'm saying he's lumpy solid. He's not muscular. He's
toned. He's not jacked.
In what
He's
world is
toned.
lumpy solid, not fat-shaming?
That's not fat. It's like, Bobby, who's your guy? Matushenko? He wasn't fat, but there was not a single line of
It's called having a real potato-based diet. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what
Volkov is. He's not fat, he's not flabby, but there ain't no tone in there either. You know?
There's only a few times when describing somebody's body as lumpy that it's a positive. When you're talking about a woman's boobs, butts, and a man's package.
Please,
I'm sorry. Describing any of those things as lumpy sounds cancerous, and you should see a doctor. Like, I don't know when lumpy boobs and lumpy balls are a good thing, Mike.
This podcast.
I mean, where it's a lump. It's like, you're seeing them with some sweats on. It's like that man has a big lump.
Serious question.
It's a compliment.
Is there butt cancer?
There's cancer everywhere. You can get cancer.
I never heard of butt cancer.
It's called colon cancer.
All cancer is mutated cells.
But I meant like on the booty, not like in the inner workings, but just like
I'm sure there is a tumor in the flesh. That is possible. Cancer is everywhere. Anyways, you're detracting from a point. Cyril Gane is a very in shape man, and in the Biggie Boy fight, I banked on him. All them muscles getting tired. He went the 5 rounds just to be like, I'm good. I'm not tired. Your narrative is bad. That's all I'm going on. Real superficial reasons. I come from the Nikki Rajabi school of young, black, and jacked.
That's fair.
Very, very quick, Mark. Yes, there is a butt cancer. It's called colorectal cancer.
Okay, that's a better name, because when I just think of butt cancer, I just have to laugh a little bit. It seems too silly to be true.
Volkov's 33 wins. 22.
Oh no, wait. There's also. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bobby. This is very important. There's also an anal cancer, according to WebMD. Please continue, Bobby.
Okay. 33 fights for Volkov. He's got 22 knockouts, only 3 submissions, 8 decision. I think we're going to be on our feet, boys. Honestly. I think we'll be on our feet. Mike, are we tied again?
I don't know. I have not done the updated rankings yet. I believe all of us went 2-1 though. So no, you're still winning.
What do you mean? I got the main event wrong. I picked Ige.
Then we might be tied again.
All right, well, we're gonna let Volkov and Gane decide who's gonna take the lead here, because I'm taking Gane. I'm making the bold choice of picking the favorite yet again this week. Did not pay off last week on any level. All right. I'm going to be 100% honest with you people. This podcast has started and stopped so many times, I have no concept of how long this episode's going to be. But we're going to stuff we like right now. Stuff we like. Marcus, you want to talk about your boy with the body shots, which we have talked about already.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Every now and then I try to check in and see when he has a fight. And I think it was like 2 months ago. I was checking on Inoue and see if he had a fight. And I think he had some exhibition like at New Year's, but I didn't hear anything. So I was really surprised come last Friday to find out that he had a fight on Saturday night on ESPN Plus, which was great because when we had the zone, he fought on there and he had a spectacular fight. So I've been able to catch a lot of his fights recently, which has been really fun. This wasn't really a super competitive fight. His opponent just wasn't of the caliber that Inoue is used to, has fought against and beaten. But it was a good coming out party for him, again, to kind of get him more introduced to the American audience. And of course, once I looked it up on YouTube, I got a lot more recommendations of other videos about him. It seemed like this fight might have had a little bit more traction than his last one, but I really hope he does kind of catch on, because outside of me just, waxing poetic about him, like he's special. Like he's not just like a fun boxer. Like he's generational, I think, in my eyes. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone that is as technically gifted as he is that hits as hard as this guy does. And you have to understand, he fights at 118, and his record right now is 21 wins, no losses, 18 knockouts. 18 knockouts at 118 is fucking ridiculous. That does not make sense. If you're a heavyweight and you have 21 and 18, you're fucking Mike Tyson. This guy's at 118 and he's putting these guys away, often within the first couple rounds. So if you haven't checked out his videos, I couldn't recommend enough to go look at YouTube and find him. And I'm trying to remember this guy's name. He fought in the World Series final. And I talked about it 2 years ago when it happened, because it happened on my birthday. It was my big special birthday gift. And Inoue wrapped it up nice and gave me one of the best fucking boxing matches I've ever saw. Bobby, you're muted.
Nonito Donaire.
Yeah, Donaire.
Oh, that's where I was going to come in, is that's the fight that kind of got his name out there. Nonito Donaire is he's basically the second most famous Filipino boxer after Manny Pacquiao, and he was reigning in these divisions. And that's cool. What I wanted to chime in about him is it seems like Des Marinas, who he defeated, is another Filipino boxer, and Nonito was in the crowd, and all the talk seems that this is going to lead to a rematch for them, because I guess Nonito has another belt at this, and this would be if Inoue beats him again, he'll unify all the belts in this division. So it seems like the natural thing. But just kind of that storyline, it does give him another big name. That'll be one of the biggest names he can fight in this division. So, in terms of you saying you want him to have a launching platform, that potential rematch could really do it.
Yeah, because that first fight was an instant classic. And that's the kind of fight you want a young fighter to have against a strong veteran who really fucking tested him. He pushed him to the limit. He broke his orbital early in the fight. He had a nasty cut. And you really got to see, does Inoue have heart? Can he come back from getting beaten and battered and win a fight? And he fucking did. He dropped, God, I already forgot his name. No, don't help me. Nonito, yeah. He dropped him with a liver shot, and just watching this fight, this was a 3-round masterpiece. This was masterclass. Fighting a southpaw. I mean, he showed stuff that I didn't really know. Like, instead of fighting against, using your rear hand, he used his front hand to, he used the hook really well to the head to get him circling away from his weak side into his strong side. And then he set up everything to hit that liver shot. And I mean, if anyone's a long listener of the show, you know how much I love body shots and guys going to the body and working the body and making that a pillar of your offense, I think is so crucial. And in no way, like that's bread and butter. Like if he doesn't go to the body, he's not working with his full tool set. To see him really outwork this past Saturday was awesome. It was just a shame that we only got to see 3 rounds of him just completely flexing on this guy. And if they have a rematch, I think that'd be great. I hope it gets. I really just think he needs to get the exposure of.
This wasn't just Plus. This wasn't just Plus. I think he was on proper ESPN.
I think so. It was on Top Rank.
It was definitely on TV.
I think is
either ESPN or ESPN2. He was on actual TV.
I hope it tracks. I hope he gets the traction that he deserves because he deserves it. He is phenomenal. And I hope he keeps winning and we can see this guy grow and progress because he's really a treat to watch. Just to round out, actually a couple games this week that I'm actually interested in. I'm actually going to buy and play. And the first one, I just saw a review on IGN that was not very good, but I'm still excited. Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance is actually coming out actually, guys, when you guys are listening to this, it came out. It's a 4-player hack and slash, kind of hack and slash loot shooter type of game. And from what I heard, it's kind of buggy, a little repetitive, but I'm really excited to kind of get in there and play. And I got a couple people that are getting it too, so I'll have a little squad. And then on Friday,
wait. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I might actually get that game as well just because of the trailer. The trailer. One of my favorite writers is a guy named Ariel Salvatore. He writes a lot of novels for Wizards of the Coast, particularly the Forgotten Realms. Particularly, he's most famous for Dritz Duerden, a Drow Ranger, and the trailer for Dark Alliance. It's basically the companions of the Hall, Dritz, Wolfgar, Brunner, and Canterbury fighting an ice dragon. Do you know is he in the game or were they just using him for
those are the 4 playable characters. So Dritz is one of the main and I know of Dritz and I know of R.A. Salvatore, and he wrote so many novels with that character. That character is probably the most iconic in Dungeons and Dragons easily. From what I heard, like the story is not really much there, but I think if you if you kind of like that stuff, it might be fun to mess around in that guy's shoes. Really, I'll have more analysis when I actually play it, but a lot of the reviews I read is that the game's kind of repetitive, which these games can kind of tend to be. And there's really not much story wise, which is a shame because, like you said, Mike, like there have been really interesting stories written about these characters in this realm in the Dungeons and Dragons lore, and it doesn't seem like they're pulling a ton from that. It does seem like most of the marketing is just like, this is a fun hack and slash kind of game to play with your friends. And I would recommend the trailer Mike was talking about was the launch trailer that just came out. And they actually had a gameplay trailer that was narrated by Jermaine Clemps, who's in or writes for What We Do in the Shadows, Flight of the Conchords. And comedy can hit or miss, and I think it landed more often than not in that trailer. And that's kind of one of the things I was like, this seems like it might be kind of a fun game. So I would, I'm going to check it out. If you're interested, you can always wait until next week, and I'll give you my verdict. On Friday, another Mario sports game is coming out, and I'm actually really excited. Mario Golf is coming out, and this is done from the Slow Claps developer who makes what used to be called Hot Shots Golf, which is now called Everyone Loves Golf, which is the Japanese name. And I've always just loved that developer. I'm not a huge golf. The actual sport of golf, I couldn't give 2 shits about. Video game golf, I'm very interested in. I've liked a lot of video game golf games, including the Hot Shots Everyone Loves Golf. Mario Golf has been great. And on the Neo Geo, they have Turf Masters, which is also another awesome golf game. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, that's what I got.
Seth, what do you got this week?
A little bit of everything. On the TV front, one of my early kind of treasure discoveries came back for the 2nd season of his sitcom. I'm talking about comedic rapper Lil Dicky's show, Dave. They dropped the first 2 episodes on Hulu, which I checked out. Uneven. Very uneven is my early reviews. I found especially the season premiere to be a bit cringy I don't know if they're in on the joke or if the joke is just a little bad taste. It was that kind of feeling on the episode. But, Mark checked out the first season before I had a chance to. And that was several episodes in. And, Mark was the one who kind of encouraged me that it got better as it went. They got into a better rhythm. So might just be a little sophomore slump. Obviously, I'm going to stick with it since Lil Dicky has been my guy since I discovered him in a random Reddit thread several years ago. On top of that, on the anime weeb front, we're coming up on the season finale of Ijiranaide Nagatoro-san. This has happened with a handful of other anime. I got so into it that I can't wait for these things. I'm gonna consume and read the manga. and I've been reading that manga, and it is the most adorable, wholesome shit that I have read in a very long time. And my man Mike over here, he watched the first episode, too much of a coward just because the girl was so mean and bullied the kid into crying. And Mike says, this is too mean. I can't watch this. Stick with the bully girl, Mike. Stick with the bully girl.
I ended up watching 2 more episodes of it. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Well, it got really good. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, reading it. It's just a series of short stories, which makes it really digestible as a manga. Is every chapter is really only 3 or 4 pages. There's just little slice of life interactions, and I can find that stuff really charming. But big thing I would say got excited this week is, funny enough, me and Mark have watched a handful of the same videos. Shout outs to the YouTube channel Ordinary Adventures. There are a couple who kind of just do ordinary adventures and they review them. And in this case, why it applies to me is they were reviewing the Avengers Campus, which I will be going to this Friday for the first time, since it just opened maybe just a few weeks ago. That's the new kind of Avengers land over at California Adventure, part of the Disneyland experience. Going to do Star Wars Galaxy at that. The key video I honed in on was, I don't really care about rides this much at this age. I don't necessarily need to take photos of mascot, but what I do want to know about is how do all the drinks and the food items review? And there is so much good looking stuff. Like, I'm really looking forward to the Terran Treat Guardians of the Galaxy desserts. I got it's the green time stone, but it's a pineapple churro that's rolled up. They have it's like a black orb pastry, which is meant to be like the power stone that Star-Lord gets in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. With inside, it's a cream puff, so it has like raspberry cheesecake cream filling to simulate the purple power stone. So just tons of things like that. There's a whole Ant-Man Dr. Pym Labs restaurant with various like alcoholic beverages and like food items. There's breakfast menus. I'm just going to get real fat, spend a lot of money. Mark told me, what did you want me to pick you up? There's a Thor mug that looks like a Mjolnir or something.
Yeah, that one looked cool. It wasn't them, but there was some other video where some dude walked around and looked at all the merchandise, and there's a lot of cool looking shit there. So I won't be surprised if you lay down some bucks. And if you get me a Mjolnir mug, I'll definitely pay you back on PayPal.
Yeah,
what's the stupid thing we use? Whatever.
When I'm shopping around, whenever I see exclusive and all that, I'll throw some pictures in our chat group.
If you see anything with Squirrel Girl, you just buy it, and I'll pay whatever it is. There's not going to be any, but if there is,
there'll be some girl who will be cosplaying as Squirrel Girl. She's coming. She's coming. Wait, did that show get canceled? They never. Mm-hmm. It was announced, but then it never came around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. So you'll get my reviews on all that on the next episode if I'm back. I don't know if I'll be back actually. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing theme parks. It's not quite the small capacity we thought when we bought our tickets. Unfortunately, the downside to society reopening is they remove mandates, and suddenly
the society part
the capacity is I really was hoping to just go to the park with 5 people. I wanted to do the build a lightsaber experience and be the only one there. I want them to really talk to me personally when we're talking about forging my lightsaber in what's it called? Star Wars Galaxy, I think that land is called. Haven't been outside to do anything like this in a long time period. So hopefully it's more fun than anxiety ridden, but we shall see.
Mike, what about you?
Yeah, 2 things for me this week. 2 movies. One of them is the new Kevin Hart movie that premiered on Netflix last week, Fatherhood. It is a dramatic turn for the famous comedian, and it's pretty good. It's Kevin Hart. He plays a guy who his wife dies during childbirth, and it's basically a story of him being a single dad and finding love and navigating being a single father and introducing a new woman into his daughter's life. So if you have a moment, or an hour or 2, I would watch Fatherhood. It's a pretty good movie. The other movie that I wanted to talk about last week, but the 10 milligrams of melatonin really put a fucking stop to that last week. May I just say, I was knocked the fuck out right after that podcast was over last week. Was In the
Mike,
Heights.
You were knocked the fuck out during that podcast last week.
I honestly,
I kind of don't even remember the end of the podcast. Like if you were trying to like ask me, hey, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. But I was pretty loopy. But I didn't want to talk about In the Heights last week in that state, as you can imagine. How I didn't want to do the podcast at that point. Yeah, I really misjudged that. Anyway, as those of you know, I am from New York City, while the rest of the guys are from San Francisco. But specifically, I am from Washington Heights, where the aforementioned movie is located. And before I went and watched the movie, my friend Claudio had actually sent me a text. He's also a Dominican from the Heights, and his text was, "This is the greatest movie I've ever seen."
Set the bar low.
Did I think he might be a little biased? I for sure thought that. And did I think I'm probably going to be very biased with my critiques of this movie? Yeah. I mean, there's no other way it couldn't. Like, it wouldn't happen. And as probably stupidly, I went and watched this movie on a date, completely forgetting the fact that I'm a bit of a crier in movies. So normally, when it's a movie I know things might get a little emotional for your boy, I try to watch those movies on my own. I'm an idiot because I basically spent a large portion of this movie trying not to cry because this movie had me so emotional. It touched me in a way that I have to assume it touched my friend Claudio as well. I think for anyone who comes from that type of neighborhood, and you don't specifically have to be from Washington Heights, but having it literally being from, a neighborhood that I grew up in and I've seen those streets, it really did touch a large chord with me. I felt like I could relate to a lot of the characters in the movie, and a lot of the different things that were going on with them. For example, Nina Rosario's character in the movie, she's a person who's just coming back from Stanford after a year away. And, she's having feelings of, she doesn't fit in at all, at the Stanford atmosphere. She feels a bit like a sellout, with, all of the white people that she's around. And, she feels like she feels a lot of pressure, being the one that, quote unquote, made it out from her area. And, what is, the parameters for her success as to what is it for her to be successful. And she feels, like a failure in a lot of ways. And I'm not going to say I feel exactly that, but there's a lot bigger majority of people that I guess, quote unquote, don't make it out of the Heights than make it out, if you want to put it that way, in terms of upward mobility. And that was definitely something I thought about in the movie. Another part, was when one of the characters passes away. It just makes you think of loved ones that you've lost. And it also helped the fact that it helped the emotional levels of it, that her whole scene happens in the 191st Street tunnel. And it's basically like a landmark in Washington Heights for the three of you that have not been there. And a little on the nose, she's dying and she's walking into the light at the end of the tunnel.
Did you take me to Washington Heights? Wait. You took me to Washington Heights. We went to your friend's house.
I took you to Washington Heights, but I took you to Washington Heights on about 170.
But I've been to Washington Heights. That's the relevant part.
That's a very different part of Washington Heights.
Okay, fair enough.
Actually, I don't know if you've watched the movie yet, Bobby, but you haven't. I gave y'all homework last week and none of y'all did it. What friends?
Wait till you get to my stuff I like. You're gonna understand why.
There is a scene actually in the movie where they're in a park and it's right in front of that's a park that is right in front of the apartment building where I took you at, Bobby. Another note, a couple of friends of mine got arrested for smoking weed in that park on numerous occasions. But really love the movie. I I won't tell you that I didn't cry a little in front of a woman I've been on 2 dates with.
Mike, let your flag fly, Mike. Let your flag fly.
There has not been a third. I don't know if that's why or not, but you know what? If that's the reason why there isn't a third, it was well worth it.
Good
That
riddance.
movie was incredible. I agreed with my friend Claudio. It is the greatest movie ever. I don't care if I'm being biased. Fight me. Go watch In the
That's
Heights.
awesome, Mike.
Have you paid attention to I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but have you paid attention to any of the controversy and stuff people would have this movie?
Yeah. And I actually spoke with my nephew about that earlier today. And when it comes to that,
well, you might want to explain what that is, actually.
That's actually a good point. So what Bobby is referring to is that a lot of Latin people had an issue that the principal cast of In the Heights, outside of Benny, who's played by the guy who played a Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton, no one else was of dark skin from the principal cast of In the Heights. And there's no real kudos for Benny being black because Benny is black in the play. So all of the other characters who are of Hispanic descent in the Heights, they're all basically lighter skinned Hispanics. And Mark has a look in his face like, I'm not exactly sure what the controversy is here. Here's what it is.
Oh, come on. I'm not that dense. I didn't know this. I haven't been listening to the controversy.
No. It's not about you being dense.
Too many J-Los, not enough Michael Sanchez's. All right, that's what they're saying. Too many J-Los, not enough Michael Sanchez's.
Too many J-Los, not enough Tito Trinidad's. Let's put it that way. Let's keep with the theme of Puerto Ricans if you're saying J-Los. But the big issue with that, when I was watching the movie, and if there's one, I guess the merit in the movie is that I thought, man, I lived in Washington Heights for the first 20 years of my life. Why is everyone in this cast outside of Benny passing the paper bag test? That is a bit of an issue. Some of the other things where it was a very eclectic mix of Latinos that were in the Heights. Like there were Mexicans, there were Hondurans, there were Puerto Ricans, Dominicans. And I'm not saying that all of those ethnicities are not in the Heights, but it's predominantly a Dominican population. But going back to what Bobby was saying about the colorism, I guess, is people just had an issue with the fact that no one in the principal cast was, represented Black Latinos. And for me personally, I didn't have an issue with it more just because I am very used to Spanish programming, i.e. like novelas from Univision and Telemundo, not having any Black people in them. You would think people in Mexico are all super, super white if you were ever to watch any novela on Univision, because there ain't no colored people on TV a lot of times. So for me, I was used to it, but I do applaud, I guess younger Latin people that, really did make us think about it, because, that's the only way things will change. If not for that, it'll just continue to the status quo will continue. So I'm very happy that people aren't as beaten down and just resigned to the fact as I was, and made us think about it. But besides that, I really loved In the Heights. It is a great musical, even if you're not from an inner city, and even if you're not from an inner city that is predominantly Dominicans.
Man, times have changed. Man, I'm Iranian. I'm just happy when we're not playing terrorists or we're not played by Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, those are my standards when they put us in a movie.
And partly I'm thinking, what, I understand what I guess what some of the outrage is, but guys, how many other movies is it where it's basically a predominantly Latin cast? Like, come on, guys, let's get some babies.
Well, I'm sure honestly, it's also they recognize like this is an opportunity that was missed. That's part of it too. Where
Yeah,
this would have been one where they could have done whatever they wanted. There wasn't like they were like, oh, like this movie had such a hype around it, and the play had won all these Tonys, and there was all this stuff behind it. People were probably disappointed you didn't go for it, right?
Let me tell you something. I like the comments on my Instagram from people that are from that neighborhood. People are pissed, and I understand their anger, but then at the same time, it's let's take this shit in steps, guys.
I'm going to Mike's Instagram when this podcast is over.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, like, the conversation is always good to have, but you don't want it to dominate because, I mean, and I'm not super interested in the film because I'm just not big into musicals in general. Like, I haven't seen Hamilton or Book of Mormon or any of that stuff. It doesn't really interest me. But, to have something touch Mike, who grew up there so much, like, you don't want the conversation to get so muddled in it not being diverse enough that it draws people away from experiencing it because, maybe they'll have the same experience like Mike did, which is, I think, is really awesome. I don't think there's a lot of media out there, whether it's film, television, books, comic books, whatever you consume that touches you in that way, that makes it feel so personal, like someone's telling your story. I think that's really impactful. And, I just hope that other people that might be in a similar situation as Mike, that would really get a lot out of this film, don't just hear the negativity about it not being diverse enough, and then they don't want to support the film for that reasons. It's great to have the conversation. And like Mike said, it's good people are making us think about it and bringing awareness to it because that is how things change. And at the same time, like we have been seeing less things whitewashed, but, I just don't want people to not experience it because the, diversity thing isn't as, dense as they wanted it.
Steph, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to chime in on, the cultural conversation of it all. Something which is both, there's a good and a bad to it, where I say like our generation and then kind of the generation coming up on our heels with activism is, I think a lot of us, our mindset where you said beaten down by it, right? I think there's a lot of us who really understand the idea you got to walk before you can run, but God bless the souls of like, my niece and nephew's generation. They want to come out firing, right? They want to come out shot out of the cannon. Everything should just be correct right from the start. Why should I deal with any bullshit? So where I like to treat it, Bob, this is how we used to talk about Bay Area rap music, right? When I'm in Oregon, this shit is perfect. It's flawless. I love it. When I'm in the Bay Area talking to other Bay Area heads, I give you all my criticisms. I give you all my critiques. This guy is trash. He's not even in the rotation. But when I'm outside of my community, now we gotta enjoy the victory. That the moment that I'm in white Portland, Oregon, and I'm hearing Mac Dre on the radio. Let me just celebrate that it's even happening, that this audience is being reached,
Absolutely.
So you guys do the same thing I do with Dipset. Outside of New York City, I will defend Dipset to my death. But to my friends back home, I tell them Dipset is garbage music, Cameron is a fraud, and Joel Santana fucking sucks. Now, just one question for you guys. I just waxed poetic about a musical from my hometown. So I have a question. If hypothetically one day the musical Diggin' Danville ever comes to a theater near us, what would be the composition of that principal cast? Would it what would it be?
85% white, 10% Asian, 5% the rest. That's your cast. You want to look at the demographics? Honestly, Asian might be closer to 15% now.
Now it's because I live in San Ramon. Like the Indian population it's
very large. Yeah.
Which is I think it's great.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of South Asians in Danville and San Ramon area. Yeah.
But it was a Ritz cracker box back when we were growing up. Like,
I just remember you could count all the black kids in high school. Oh, what a hand. Okay. All right. Stuff we like real quickly. I'm just watching King of the Hill. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm watching King of the Hill. And I'm going to just say this. Bobby Hill.
That's my purse.
Bobby, that is the most quoted line from Bobby Hill, period. It has breached a cultural lexicon. Okay. But Bobby Hill is seriously an incredible character. I relate to this little boy so much. Okay. There's this, his voice is hilarious. And there's this one scene where Hank and Peggy are arguing over, who knows better. And they're trying to flip some pancakes. And they're trying to flip these pancakes and like they're arguing and then Bobby just goes, please be careful with my pancakes. And I was laughing for 10 minutes at that line just because of his voice. It's Pamela Adlon, actually, the voice of Bobby Hill. Mm-hmm. She had that show on FX, Better Now, I think it was called. I'm not sure if it still exists. And then she also played Marcy on, what was the name of the show with Duchovny? Californication. She was on that for years. God, the show's also a good show. You understand why I was on the air for like 12 fucking years. But Bobby Hill's the fucking best. I love Bobby Hill. I'm gonna get myself a Bobby Hill poster and put it up on the wall here, okay? He's the man. Great self-defense tips too. That's in season 6. I'm not even there yet. I'm in the middle of season 3 right now. That's all we got this week. Thank you all for listening to the podcast. Next week, we might just be a 3-man booth here. We'll see what if Stefan makes it back in time. I don't think we're gonna have much to pick because I think there's gonna be a gap here. We're gonna have no cards for a week there. UFC's not running 4th of July. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if Bellator's got a card or if PFL's got a card or maybe if one is busting out. I saw some noise with Eddie Alvarez and Christian Lee talking some shit.
We'll Christian Lee's like, yeah, don't worry, we'll fill an hour.
Christian Lee's like, Eddie Alvarez has done nothing to deserve a title shot. I'm like, I'll be honest, I'm barely paying attention to one, but I agree with this kid.
Didn't Eddie Alvarez lose his last fight?
I think they got him another fight after. I'm not sure what happened in that one, but he definitely lost the one before that for a bunch of illegal strikes.
Didn't he lose the first fight ever on TNT?
Yeah, you and me really tried, Mike.
Disqualification, it's different.
Yeah. Really? Okay, guys. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week. You should watch In the Heights. And if you're in LA, go see Stefan at Disneyland. So, see y'all next week. Peace out.
You're in LA, leave me the F alone. Stand 12 feet away.
See ya.
That's my purse. I don't know you.
This is now we just talk over the end music. So people get a real fucking full experience here. Like a real studio show.